So let's talk about why I'm not anti-religion, even though it's perfectly okay if you are, and talk about the differences between the more traumatic versions of religion and the less traumatic versions of religion, and talk about what a high demand, high control religion is. So, first of all, I'm not anti-religion. Some of my clients choose to just move out of traumatic religion into a religion that fits them better, that they find to be non-traumatic, and that is completely fine. Some of my clients are atheists by this point, and that is completely fine too. If you're anti-religion, I have absolutely no problem with that. I'm just going to explain to you how I see all of this and why. Um, and so, yeah, a lot of people find their own religion to be genuinely hopeful and affirming of themselves and of all people and soothing and comforting. And if that's the case for you, then great. I have absolutely no problem with that. Not all of religion is traumatic. What I'm talking about instead are what are often called high demand, high control religions. And I like a definition that I got from a therapist named Crystal Ships, and she used this definition in an article that she wrote on Psychotherapy Network. And I just think it's a really good definition of what I'm talking about. She says, a high demand, high control religion is a faith community that requires obedience, discourages its members from questioning its rules, principles, and practices, expects subservience and loyalty, discourages trusting relationships outside of the group, perpetuates the notion that those within the group are right and superior to those outside of it, promotes extreme or polarizing beliefs, and expects its members to suppress their authentic selves in exchange for the sense of belonging and security the group offers. So if you were listening to me reading that definition by now, just now, and if you read it and thought, oh crap, yeah, that is how I grew up, or that is the religion that I've left, or that is the religion that I'm thinking about leaving, if it brings up kind of feelings of foreboding for you and it feels way too familiar and you're not happy with it, then probably you're going to get quite a bit out of this course because that's the kind of traumatic religion that I'm talking about. Other religions are not like that. There are religions out there that don't have any of those traits or don't, or at least don't show any of those traits very strongly. And I don't find those religions to be traumatizing. So that's the difference that I'm talking about. There are a lot of really benevolent or at least benign religious groups out there, the Reformed Jewish communities, the Unitarian Universalists, the United Church of Christ, lots of other groups. Usually, what I go looking for is a strong social justice component. And if they've got a strong social justice component, then they are usually egalitarian, open minded, not dogmatic, not teaching you to suppress your authentic self. They're usually not going to be traumatizing. And specifically, I go looking, of course, because I am who I am, I go looking for organizations that are welcoming and affirming around LGBTQ people. And those groups do exist for pretty much every religion. Sometimes they're small groups, but there are Islamic groups that are open and affirming. There are Mormon groups that are open and affirming. There are groups of Mennonites that are open and affirming of queer and trans folks. And so, one good resource for finding those groups, if you're interested, is at welcomingresources.org. You can go to that website, look for your area, find groups in your area. Um, how easily you'll find them depends usually on how big a place you live in. If you're living in a major city, it's a lot easier than if you're living in a really small town or out in the country. But go take a look. And the main thing that I look for is organizations that ordain all races, all genders, all sexual orientations into their clergy. That is, like, to me, the gold standard of an organization that is probably not going to traumatize you within a religious setting, because if everybody's welcome as they are without having to try to change themselves or be completely different, then that is probably not a traumatizing religion. So let me see. Is that it for this section? Yep, I'm going to move on in just a second and talk a little bit about myself and my upbringing.